Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made. I just can't tell you all are of what you... For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure they too join with us in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the sea of tranquility,
there's a devil inside, and he don't play.
They are fundamentally transforming every single agency in the country.
And I figured that would never happen without the preparation we had training the team. And so I'd like...
I'm not. All right.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more back thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. We just let it be. Na, 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hair. But they don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we could do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out. They do it every time. Just let it be. Na, 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me. Change it, yeah, just you and me. Change it, yeah, change it. Can't do it alone, Need some help, y'all. Need a little help. Said boy, some help. No, change the world. What it used to be.
Here, we're going back to the moon at the end of the month. All this time of not having the technology to go back, and conveniently, right at this point in time, we now can go back. Conveniently, all within the same year that many people are awakening to the truth that we are living on a flat reality, a flat stationary Earth. And that's been a big thing this year. A huge thing, and then all of a sudden, now we can go back. So after all this time of not having the technology to go back, in the 1 year that many are starting to change their belief of the shape of our planet, and now they can conveniently go back. What timing is that? Considering the fact that we really cannot deny that over the last 50 years our technology and graphic design things have superiorly advanced. You know damn well it's gonna look real. You got Disney behind them. This is gonna be interesting to see.
Well, let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. See, you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, but what we saw was we all were gathered around the old curved top radio and listened.
Talking about, you know, how many feet we were going to the left and right, and then I said, contact light, engine stop.
It was
and a few
exciting.
other things, and then Neil said, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed. Man, how about that?
That was very exciting.
Not a bad line.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. We're going on a rocket ship, we're going to the moon. We're going on a rocket ship, we're leaving very soon. We're going
to the moon and back. Parachuting into the Pacific, NASA's capsule Orion makes its splashdown.
NASA's journey to the moon comes to a close. Orion, back on Earth.
The plan is to get ready to go with humans to Mars late in the decade of the 2030s, and then even further beyond. And we know from what we are finding from the James Webb Space Telescope that it is a very, very large universe out there.
We're going on a rocket ship, we're going to the moon. Put on your seatbelt.
And with me on console here, probably none more important than the NASA Administrator, Bill Nelson. Senator, thank you for joining us today.
NASA's Artemis 1 Orion capsule splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico. It returned from a 25-day test flight around the moon. The vehicle hit Earth's atmosphere at a mind-bending 40,000 kilometers an hour.
Is it bad to pour cold water on a hot pan? This is a great question we got from John Doe 1000. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that's a fake name, but it's a real question. I've been there before too. You're in the kitchen, you're cooking a meal, and you need your stovetop cleared. And how tempting it is to put that pan in the sink.
When it hits the atmosphere, it's going to be heating up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the parachutes have to work.
You can get quite a violent sizzle, even just from the water on the bottom of the sink. But is this actually a bad thing for your pan? Most pots and pans are made from multiple materials, whether it's layers of metal in the base, the handles, the rivets, the coating like enamel or non-stick, or something else. And the materials used in these elements all expand and contract at different rates depending on how they're heated and cooled. Usually this isn't an issue because the change happens gradually, while the pot or pan slowly warms up in the oven or on the stove and slowly comes down to room temperature when you're done. It's when you introduce a really dramatic temperature change that problems can arise. This is called thermal shock.
Two things, big things, that had to work. One was the rocket, and it worked beautifully and almost perfectly. And the other thing is the heat shield, because it's coming in hot and fast. It's coming in at 32 times the speed of sound. That's about 25,000 miles an hour. When it hits the atmosphere, it's going to be heating up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the parachutes have to work.
And it really matters how much iron is in the alloy, as pure iron melts at about 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Heavily alloyed steels or cast irons start to melt around 2,050 degrees Fahrenheit. whereas lightly alloyed steels and certain wrought irons melt at about 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit. Lastly, nickel alloys are valued for their high melting points and resistance to heat.
When it hits the atmosphere, it's going to be heating up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Let's put slowly around the thing.
As you might guess from the names, when a metal is cooler than its solidus temperature, it's solid. When it's hotter than the liquidus, it's completely molten and liquid.
Because it's coming in hot and fast. It's coming in at 32 times the speed of sound. That's about 25,000 miles an hour. When it hits the atmosphere, it's going to be heating up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Disc bottom pans are made by gluing the bottom of the pan to the rest of it. These are much less durable because the adhesives holding the bottom of the pan on can fail. You can tell whether your pan is a disc bottom pan or fully clad by looking for a seam around the base. If you see a seam, it's a disc bottom pan.
Let's put slowly around the thing.
This can cause breakage because the pan is essentially pulling against itself, which can result in warping, wiggly handles, cracking, shattering, chipping, and more. I actually cracked the interior of my own Dutch oven by pulling it out of the oven and putting it right in the sink. There was water on the bottom of the sink, and that was the culprit.
A vision for the future that captures the DNA of particularly Americans, although we do this as an international venture.
Depending on your project, melting point can play a key role in the material you choose. Anything from forging to high temperature applications can drastically change your decision.
I think you have to be hesitant to celebrate and throw confetti a little bit too early, but it certainly is an important achievement, is it not?
It's historic because
We're flying on a rocket ship, zoom, zoom, zoom. We're flying on a rocket ship, we're flying to the moon.
Well, again, I can just go back in time to the 60s, and they said, a different version of the same thing. Why are we doing this when fill in the blank?
we always have a frontier, and that frontier is now to continue exploring the heavens.
Night and good morning, saints. Welcome, sinners. This is the Critical Christian Crowd. I'm your laconic lay leader, Lon Linky, live from an anticipatory West Central Minnesota. Me, Margaret, and the Moose, and the Chatsters. Good morning, Chatsters. Good morning. Have a couple of new countries heard from. Special welcome to Ruckus. That's a Facebook friend who has journeyed on over into the land of the few, the tube of the few. Well, it should be fun this morning, so let's do things the right way. Thank you, Lord, for the beautiful day. As we wait for feet and feet and feet and feet of snow, we thank you for the opportunity to contend for the faith and speak the truth and expose those who would do the opposite. So, in your Son's name, amen. Thank you. So, yeah, it's our favorite topic. It's our favorite topic. NASA. I like them boys at NASA. They always send me some nice stuff. I'm a member of the space camp. Yeah, I bet you are, Margaret. Anyway, so old creepy Bill Nelson just can't help himself. Just cannot help himself. He, once again, if you, after you spend a couple of hours in an editing room and you take a look at these guys' eyes And the way Nelson speaks, he mispronounced frontier. He called it frontier. He did it earlier. He's changing words. I don't know whether that's a part of their voodoo that they do so well or not. But it's just creepy. It's weird. It's out of sorts. It's just like them crazy signing people that they put up beside whoever's on the propaganda box. It seems like they find the most animated, just horror movie audition room kind of people to do that. And, you know, God love him. I'm sure he's got family and a wife who loves him and children and grandkids, but boy, oh boy, oh boy. He's got a creep factor around him. And I know we don't wrestle with flesh and blood. But boy, oh boy, sometimes those powers and principalities and dark spirits in higher places have a way of oozing on out of people's very human nature. Weird. Anyway, that's what we get when we have eyes to see and ears to hear and minds that won't be blown. Oh, anyway, our old friends True Story Live are in there this morning too. I popped in and saw them last Sunday night for a second. If you haven't had a chance to get over to True Story Live and sub them, they do an offering once a week on Sunday evenings, and they talk about God and the world and relationships and all sorts of good stuff. So I recommend those folks. And nice to have you here this morning as well. Yeah, let's get into this. I mean, there's just so much. This one's going to drive itself too. It really is going to drive itself. First of all, this isn't even a part of it, but I do want everyone to be prepared. And I'm sure you, me, us, we looked at it and went, that's wrong. This is the Earthrise shot from 1972, right? That's the Earth as the Apollo was cresting over the curve of the ball moon. They were able to get that picture. We'll see if their photography skills have increased in the last 50 years or not. My guess is going to be no. But the shots that we received already from Artemis 1, Mother Gaia 2, don't have the old ball Earth that close. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know it, I know it. It's all hocus pocus. But this time around, versus the 1969 through 72, people are taking a little bit closer look. I know I am, and it's fun because NASA, and there are just some things they cannot get around. There are just some things they can not get around. Let me go ahead and put this up here first. This is the big one. So yeah, old creepy Bill Nelson, who's a ex-astronaut himself and a senator, so he's military and government, and now he's the chief at NASA. Yikes. So he wants to explore the heavens, to continue to explore the heavens. Well, now, as a born-again, spirit-led, God-fearing, Jesus-loving Christian, I don't think that's such a good idea to go explore the heavens, especially now that we know what we know. And if you didn't know, you should know. I was going to hold Dean's sermons from the last 2 Sundays, but here's a good opportunity to do it. Excuse me. Here's what we talk about when people say, what difference does it make what shape the earth is? It's not a salvation issue. Well, here's what difference it makes. While you're believing in outer space and heliocentric modeling and Darwinism and Big Bangery and all this eugenics nonsense that's all built around, and some other evil, while you're doing all that and being consumed with the eye candy, you're missing everything else. And that's kind of what that's exactly what Dean said at the first FEIC event up in North Carolina. Flat Earth is exciting. It's a wonderful biblical truth. But if you make it your idol, If you stop right there, you're going to miss out. Can't say it any easier, any more laconic, and simply put, that's true. You're going to miss out. And that's it. That's the devil's a deceiver. He's a murderer. He's a liar from the very beginning. You're going to miss out. He's going to keep you watching this, and then way back here something else is going on. Keep watching this, and then he's going to do this way over here. Well, don't watch this anymore. Get rid of that. Go back into the Word. So the big parts of that intro, and I want to get out of this intro real quick, but it was good. And I'm sure the ladies, the saintly ladies of the subscription, and the Ms. Wrenches of Love will appreciate all the time I dedicated to kitchenware and cooking. And it was nice, but it was true. This is fundamental basic physics. Hot and cold. It's just hot and cold. What makes things hot? What makes things cold? And that example from that young lady telling you about thermoshock is just magnified by what 1,000? Because she's talking about, and we've all done it. We've either taken a pan off the stove and set it in the sink, or set it on some water, or accidentally spilled water on a hot pan. That'll cook your goose, especially if you deep fry a turkey. You put any water in anywhere around that thing, klaboom, not good. But anyway, it's a thermal shock. It's one of them scientific explanations, and it's good science. Let you know, don't do this, right? Because what happens? You end up weakening the pot, the pan, or cracking it. You harm it. Well, you multiply that by 1,000, because let's say you took something out of the oven at 450 degrees and set it immediately in a sink full of water. It's going to do some damage. Now you're talking about that Artemis 1 capsule that hit the water. And you've seen the footage, that splashdown footage. They never photograph them in outer space, ever. I wonder why that is. Because there is no outer space. If there was, it'd be the most awesome footage of all time. Actually coming out of and into the envelope of space, and then returning and coming back in from outer space into all that. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they can't do that, and we'll get to that in a little bit later. But you've seen that footage. Now we're waiting. It's going so fast. It's going, then poop, the parachutes pop open. And in less than a couple of minutes, it's already in the ocean. Really? It can cool down from, what did he say? What's the temperature? 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit? It can cool down that quick? I don't think so. Here's Bill to help us.
One was the rocket, and it worked beautifully and almost perfectly. And the other thing is the heat shield, because it's coming in hot and fast. It's coming in at 32 times the speed of sound. That's about 25,000 miles an hour. When it hits the atmosphere, it's going to be heating up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the parachutes have to work.
And it's like Tony said in the chat this morning, parachutes have to work. What are they made of? Titanium? And even if they were 5,000 degrees, the melting points on iron, on wrought iron, were at 2,900 degrees. Wrought iron melts. You've seen this capsule, and I think they tell you, well, it's aluminum, titanium. And we're going to get to something else that's going to blow your mind. But you just can't tell me that those parachute cords and the parachutes can withstand that heat. And if it really was that hot, and you know anything about the thermal dynamics, You'd stop and it'd shoot it right back up if it was that hot. Too many anomalies, way too many. And we've all been down this road before. The reason we're going down this road again is because they're ramping up outer space. They are ramping it up. Now, the great news is, because it's NASA, they can never do anything correctly. So they're going to wait 2 more years before they send Artemis 2 to circle the moon, and then Artemis 3 goes with astronauts inside, and then either 4 or 5 goes to the actual moon. Okay. Here is a reminder. It's 2022 right now. It is 2022. NASA will return with the same Artemis nonsense in 2024, and then return in 2025 with an actual manned moon mission. How convenient. Anyway, that was that. So, I put that panel up there again and you can try to get these numbers. 25,000. Listen, I reviewed, and I didn't pull footage, but I wanted to, of the G-force, the centrifugal force testing they do for aviators, jet pilots, where they have to be able to withstand, I think it's 9 Gs or 10 Gs, because that's the max they're going to get. What did Bill say? What did Bill Nelson say? 32 times the speed of sound. Human bodies inside of a tuna can that's 5,000 degrees on the outside. That fast? 25,000 miles per hour? If it doesn't seem believable, guess what, saints? It's not. If it doesn't seem believable, if it seems too fantastic, it is too fantastic. It is unbelievable. And when you start defying natural science, physics, chemistry here, when will the metals melt? I'll say that 14,000 times. Yeah. What are you going to do? Anyway, speaking of that topic, let's shoot on over here.
But the temperature range in between is a strange space where the metal is both molten and solid. Pretty crazy, right? Different alloys have different melting ranges, as the elements in its chemical makeup change how easily it can melt. An alloy with a high percentage of tin or aluminum will melt at a much lower temperature than alloys that are mostly iron and nickel. Out of the materials Online Metals offers, aluminum alloys have the lowest melting point, ranging from about 848 degrees Fahrenheit, with some of the pure alloys to around 1230 degrees Fahrenheit for more advanced alloys designed for heat resistance like 7075. The copper alloys, bronze and brass, have a much wider range. Depending on the alloy, they will melt between the range of 1290 degrees Fahrenheit or 1900 degrees Fahrenheit. Bronzes, which often have more tin in them, tend to melt at lower temperatures than brass, which typically have copper and zinc. Pure copper melts at about 1980 degrees Fahrenheit. Steel and iron have the largest temperature range, and it really matters how much iron is in the alloy, as pure iron melts at about 2800 degrees Fahrenheit. Heavily alloyed steels or cast irons start to melt around 2050 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas lightly alloyed steels and certain wrought irons melt at about 2900 degrees Fahrenheit. Lastly, nickel alloys are valued for their high melting points and resistance to heat. Heavily alloyed nickels will begin to melt at about 2430 degrees Fahrenheit. More lightly alloyed nickels, or ones alloyed with specialized metals like chromium, will melt at about 2950 degrees Fahrenheit.
So there it is. Those are the numbers on the melting points. I put up the wrong panel, but we'll get to that one. So, I don't know. Unless I'm missing something, I don't know how you can heat something up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, traveling at that speed, And then let's not forget this, too, since we're talking about speed, all right?
The Earth is spinning on its axis 1,000 miles an hour. Like if I was God spinning a basketball 1,000 miles an hour. And at the same time it's doing that, the Earth is going in orbit around the sun. At guess what rate of speed? 66,000 miles an hour. 66,000 miles an hour, 1,000 miles an hour. And on top of that, the whole solar system's going through the Milky Way galaxy. At guess what rate of speed? 400,000 miles an hour. 400,000 miles an hour, 66,000 miles an hour, and 1,000 miles an hour. And to top it all off, as that's happening, the whole Milky Way galaxy is tearing through the universe. At guess what rate of speed? 2.2 million miles an hour.
It's like Max Malone said. The reason they could ever, by their own model, could never go to the moon or outer space or the Floatyville Tuna Can International Space Station. The reason they can't is if you believe their model and everything is enclosed, like Bill Nye said, yeah, it's enclosed all right, but the oxygen is pulled to the Earth's surface because of gravity. Okay, I believe you. What happens with that 1,000-mile rotation once you leave the safety of the atmosphere and then get hurled into the other three motions that are taking place? What would happen to that little tin can? It'd disintegrate. It would disintegrate.
That doesn't happen. Once they cross the envelope of space, they go into 0G. Everybody floats around. It's like a spring day in Florida. About 72 degrees, always in outer space. Always 72 degrees. You know, nice, comfortable.
You know, I think I'm going to have her watch for the snowstorm and then lock all the doors. Just doesn't make any sense. I'll give you this revelation that I had this morning when I was looking over all this footage too. Otherwise, I'll forget it because I'm old, slow, and I got that arthritis in this hand. No, wait, this hand. That capsule, when it comes down, and we're going to look at it here. Let me just go ahead and roll. So we've already covered this. I'm calling it a space boat. They call it a spaceship. I think it's a boat, an actual boat. They've designed the boat. They know it's never going into outer space. So what do they have to do? They have to design a boat that will fall with the parachutes on them into the ocean and not capsize and not drown these guys, right? When it comes down and sits, and you see those buoyancy buoys, wow. I'll say that one 14,000 times. Buoyancy buoys on the top of the space boat. They tell you that's, well, if it fills up with water and goes down, that'll keep it up, and then the divers can go get them. So those little buoyancy buoys are not keeping that space boat afloat. My question is, what is? Because I've spent a lot of times in boats. It has to be designed, balanced, ballast, and there has to be some sort of flotation in there. Normally styrofoam. But it floats. It floats. It's a Floatyville space boat. That's what it is. Play the clip. All right, here we go.
Can humans now travel to the moon? NASA's Orion space capsule made a successful return to Earth.
There it is.
The unscrewed
Splash.
capsule floated down to the Pacific.
No violent
on
reaction.
December 11th.
No
NASA,
sizzle.
We had a picture
right?
perfect splashdown.
Picture
Said Melissa
perfect.
Jones, NASA's landing
No
and
thermal
recovery
shock
director.
at all.
The main goal of this mission was to test if humans can withstand the temperature inside the Orion. It tested Orion's heat shield for the day. It had to withstand a temperature of 2,800 degrees centigrade. The falling spacecraft eased to a speed of 20
Animation.
miles per hour. Hence, the Artemis 1 mission is accomplished.
That's an animation. And during that intro, I included two little clips of the space boat floating. It didn't have any fire marks on it, didn't have any charcoaling or scarring or any of that on it. It looked like it had some dust on it from where it was sitting inside the cargo plane before they had to shove it out. And it's all individual tiles, riveted. What did the young lady in the kitchen say? You don't want that. Your rivets will go first. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Plus, the big one is, you got to believe that it wasn't even 450 degrees warm when it hit the water, because there was no thermal shock. None. I don't know that the physics of heat work that way. We'll see. Anyway, so that's it. And animations, always animations. Here we go. Here's the next one.
This is the largest mission that NASA has taken on.
As it traveled farther than any craft designed to carry people, NASA staff watched intently as volumes of data streamed back from Artemis 1's uncrewed Orion capsule.
Data taking, thermal analysis, vibe acoustic.
Analyzing the data from the Orion seat to understand the dynamic response of having the mannequin in there.
So we want to make sure the spacecraft is set up for those challenges, radiation, things like that.
The Orion capsule's 26-day journey, carrying 3 mannequins tens of thousands of kilometers beyond the moon, tested NASA's ability to one day carry astronauts like Victor Glover in a craft where the crew won't have much independent control.
Oops, that came up fast on me. All right, so you heard the overwhelming message within the message, the subtext to the pre-tense is that we're data collecting. And she had mentioned a whole bunch of things that they would be checking on. Radiation and stuff like that. Radiation. And nobody gives any two space monkey dung piles about radiation. I'd be more concerned about this stuff. I'd be more concerned, and these would be my questions if I ever had a chance to ask NASA questions. Welcome to the NASA Q&A section of today's presentation. Yes, you, white bearded guy who, geez, have you had a shower? We can smell you from up here. You got a question? Yeah, I got a few. The pressurized system that they're in, their pressurized capsule, and then their pressurized suits. Then they take off and they leave for a 25-day mission around the moon, land the moon, come off the moon, orbit again, slingshot back, 25 days, whatever it is. How can their vestibular system survive that? How can it survive that? There, I'll just leave it at that. I'll wait for an answer. I'll just wait. They're not going to answer. They're going to tell you, oh, that's fine. Yeah, we've got a doctor over here. There's a doctor right over there. The vestibular system is fine. Okay. That's inner ear. That's balance. That's water in your ear that balances out how you know up from down. And in outer space, there is no up or down. Remember, Saints? There is no up or down in outer space. Question number 2. G-force stress. Exiting and re-entering. We just did it here, but I'd ask them, how much G-force can the human body possibly survive? And even in 0G Floatyville, you're telling me going 200 or 25,000 miles an hour doesn't affect the human body? No, it doesn't. We have a scientist to confirm that. Scientist, can you confirm that?
That's right. It doesn't affect the body.
Okay, question number 3. Heat extremes and critical cold, according to you, gets as cold as minus 257 degrees on the moon, you told us. And we just heard those heat extremes coming back in. How much can the human body take? And I'd also like to know about your air conditioning unit, where it can run, switch on and off. So when you go to those extreme heats and colds, I'd like the name of that air conditioning guy to keep it a comfortable 72 degrees inside the capsule for 7 to 25 days, however long the mission is. Just a question. That's it. And this was a huge one for me. Unlike the 1960s, 70s Apollo missions, where they had to do the button pushing and manually fly the space boat all by themselves, this time around our technology allows us to let this mission be totally automated, software driven. They don't have to do anything while they're inside the capsule? No, nothing. So they're just sitting, doing nothing? Yeah, we'll take care of them down here. Who's going to sign up for a mission like that? You mean if the software glitches, I'm dead? Well, we have a doctor and a scientist to answer that. That's not going to happen, right? Right? First, you, scientist, that's not going to happen, right? No. We don't have software glitches in the 21st century. You all should know that. How about you, Doc? What kind of psychological duress are these three astronauts going to be under as they just ride along and don't have to do anything? Nothing. Oh, they'll be fine. Which brings me to this one. And as disgusting as it is, you got to ask them. The human body's got to pee and poop. Got to. We'll just leave it at that. I don't need details. I just know that you know, I know, you, me, us, we all know none of that is going on inside of a little bitty capsule. And they've told everybody, going to be the first woman in outer space on the moon. First woman. With who? With the first person of color, too. A nice black man. Okay? But you got a man and a woman in the same small capsule. Fill in the rest for me so I don't have to say it. No. Unbelievable and too fantastic. Need a script writer. All right. Let's continue with our favorite friends down at Cape Canaveral.
This is the largest mission that NASA has taken on. We will have astronauts on board. They will monitor all their systems.
As it traveled farther than any craft designed
that show everything on the vehicle and provide telemetry and command interface to the vehicle, but automation in the background will be operating the mission in its entirety.
NASA's Shanna DeLeon, a veteran of the Space Shuttle program, is part of the team working on new and very different technology from that used by the last astronauts to reach the moon.
It's much different than the Apollo era of capsule, where you had switch throws and multiple astronauts and you called the astronaut to make actions that would operate the vehicle. Artemis is automated. It's a software-driven vehicle. It's a data-driven vehicle that will automate everything from takeoff through splashdown.
NASA officials expressed confidence in Orion's overall performance, despite some minor technical glitches.
Splashdown.
Yeah, you saw that splashdown again. But, again, is this starting to make sense to you, Saints? Is this starting to make sense? Data collection, data review, software-driven, everything digital. It's perfectly set up for 4K Studios proudly presents from, as Dan Weston said, a soundstage in Nevada somewhere. I don't know. Sure looks that way. And I don't know how in the wide, wide world of sports they're ever going to pull off not getting pictures of the Earth Here's what I really want to see. The spaceship, Earth, the sun, and then the moon, all in one pan shot, one sweeping pan shot. And once again, as Max Malone used to say, that's never going to happen. Ever. 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 And it won't. Just like they don't teach the Earth curvature at any educational level. They don't teach it. Why not? Because it doesn't exist. If it existed, they'd teach it. They don't. So it's just wild, and it's a bit of a warning, just to keep your eyes open and your ears peeled, or your eyes peeled and your ears open. This is no time to get Lexadexic. But that's NASA and their mess. All right, here's another one.
Artemis 3, scheduled for 2025, will see a spacecraft land for the first time on the south pole of the moon, where they hope to find water in the form of ice. As part of the Artemis missions, NASA is planning to send a woman and a person of color.
Yeah, so there it is. They're sending a woman and a person of color, and they're going to the south pole of the moon, a brand new region. I guess that would be because if they were anywhere else, other than what they're telling you is either the north pole of the moon or the south pole of the moon, any pictures they'd have to take would have to be shot like this. Because remember, according to them, the moon is a sphere. It's a ball, just like Earth. So they're either standing sideways, upside down, or straight, up and down. They'll be standing upside down on the moon so they can just turn and take a picture of the Earth like that. But I want to see that video camera pan everywhere. I don't care about the stars, but I do want to see the spaceship, the Earth, the sun, and then the moon. All in one panning shot. Not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. Wow. I knew this hour was going to go quick. It's just nonsense. Feels like a Saturday. Anyway, I got one more here. But, here's something else I brought up. I was scanning this splashdown footage so that I didn't make a mistake myself, right? So that I saw footage long enough that showed 0 thermal shock. And I had to look through a lot of footage because most of them, once it hit, it cut it. So I had to find a piece of footage that ran long enough until the helicopters actually got by there. And I found one. And what you saw was the helicopters were the rotor velocity, speed, was pushing rotors, not water. The rotor wash was pushing the water, as you can see in that still right there. And it makes it look like steam, makes it look like it's hot, on fire, not on fire. Anyway, it's another eye trick if they decide to use that to overcome. And they had 2 or 3 helicopters out there, and once they'd get by it, that rotor wash would kick all this moisture up out of the ocean. Just amazing to me. And that thing has been in outer space for 25 days, 26 days, and then just comes down and just floats in the ocean. Just floats in the ocean. Absolutely amazing. All right, I got one more.
NASA officials expressed confidence in Orion's overall performance, despite some minor technical glitches.
Splashdown.
The agency must now sort through the collected data in preparation for the next step, Artemis 2, the first crewed mission that will return to orbit the moon, scheduled for 2024.
All the data we get is a success. And that's the important thing, is to go off and test that out so we can buy down that risk for Artemis 2.
While SpaceX is also working on a new rocket system to reach the moon to assist in NASA's long-term goals, Program Integration Manager Braniel Rodriguez says the Orion capsule is NASA's craft of choice for the foreseeable future.
This isn't just this test flight. This is the start, I think, of a fantastic campaign that's really going to extend our exploration.
While NASA knows how it will get crews back to the moon, who will go first is not yet decided, though 18 astronauts are on the short list. NASA's priority is sending the first woman and the first person of color to the moon's south pole no earlier than 2025. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
A lot of these clips were from Voice of America because, you know, a free press matters. But anyway, my thanks to Voice of America, VOA, for those. Yeah, listen, there are so many young ladies, young female scientists, spokesladies that represent NASA. It isn't even funny. It isn't even funny. So the agenda, the narrative they're driving home, is not one of moon and space exploration. It's like, I think, oh boy. Yeah, it's like Dan Weston said in the chat. I'm sure the astronauts are real excited about the most significant thing about them is their sex and their skin color. That's how you know this is not scientific. If it was scientific, the two most qualified people, or three, would be there. Plus, we know there's no science going on. None, said the Pope. From a theatrical position, it looks to me like this is going to be a 2-year audition session. 2 years with these 18 people in NASA. Constant rehearsal, constant scripting, constant running lines. And then, just like in show business, you'll whittle them down. You'll whittle them down. You'll hire your original cast, and then, you know, you got to get rid of a few. And you'll whittle them out. You'll cut them out. You'll cut them out. That's just the nature of theater. That's how it goes. And they got 18 of them in the wings. Well, we haven't made a decision yet. Yeah. You're going to get the well-studied that know that script inside and out before they even attempt to pull this going back and landing on the moon nonsense in 2025. Don't forget, the original date was 2024. They've already moved it once. And how many launches did they delay? Come on, folks. Use your noggins here. Anyway, I think that's about it. It's a great time to be alive. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful time to be alive. Because all this nonsense is just coming to fruition. It's just all manifesting. All manifesting. And now that I'm at the end here, I will remind you, if you're looking for a good online church, good online studied and approved pastor, go see Dean Odell at deanodell.org. Last 2 Sundays, he was teaching on the magnetic north. And it's all Bible, folks. There's some scientific evidences there and some history documentation, historical documentation. And the reason I love Dean the way I do is because all of his presentations are scripture-based. Scripture-based. You may not agree with everything with him theologically speaking, but his messages, his teachings are Bible-based, Scripture-based, and it's good. And when you start understanding the importance of the 4 rivers and the magnetic north and the throne of God, it's just really good stuff. So that's somebody needs to I'll put it up there. I'm going to go into the chat here real soon. Promise kept, I am hopefully going to get in touch with. That's a whole other deal. There's Dean's website. Anyway, all right, let me get out of here. I think that's it. Yeah. Went a little smoother than I thought it would. I thank God in heaven that I didn't have to get animated that much. Here's my hold, please, while I take care of the panels. Hey, look at that happy bunch. Look at them. They just got back from the moon. Don't they look happy? You just went to the moon. What are you going to do next? Sit here and sulk. Sit here and realize that our souls have been damned to hell. Amen, amen. They didn't go to the moon. All right, I got to get out of here. Margaret. Thank you. All right. Let's see if I can't do this at a little quicker pace. Good, healthy chat this morning. That's always nice to see. That is always nice to see. All right. Should put some countdown music on. This is your reflection time. All right, that's enough. Let's go in there. Homestead. I got one more lingering banner there that I shouldn't have. Homestead, Wyoming is in there. Nice to see you this morning. Mrs. E is on there this morning. Dan Weston, thank you from the West Coast. True Story Live, thank you. I'm going to assume it's Mr. Cripps, I hope. Ruckus, I hope you enjoyed the first offering. I hope you enjoyed it. It was good to have you here, so thank you very much. Yeah, check Dean's website out. Mr. Towner, nice to see you. Sour Apples. Tony Forrester, thank you, my brother, for coming in early, as always. Aunt Sally. I'm Henry the 8th, I am. Henry the 8th, I am. I've been married 7 times before. And then I can't remember the rest of the words to that song. Aunt Sally, nice to see you, my dear. West Coast Watchman, good morning, Kilo Bravo. Say no. Say no to Soylent Green Eggs and Ham, OG. Just say no. It's human. Charlton Heston, Soylent Green. Yeah, they were eating humans. They were eating each other.
That sounds familiar.
That'll be another one for the season. Little Wild Billy Gates mortuary and compost farm and McDonald's right on the same block. I'm not moving as fast as I should this morning. I didn't have enough coffee. I've been up for a while. All right, Uncle Drunkle's in there. Oh, nice to see you. I'm going to get him on here too. There's a whole bunch of you in there. Mr. Towner, Gary, thank you for coming in. I think that's it. I always forget somebody, but nice to have y'all. Very healthy numbers this morning. Very, very healthy. So thank you all very much. Thank you very, very much. And I greatly appreciate your time and attention. You know, we started this 3 years ago. One of the very first Chitty Chatsters, one of them was Promise Kept. So I'm going to do all I can to get this problem fixed. One of the other ones you may or may not remember was Jalen Cruz, and we lost Jalen in the second year. So I value your attendance, and I hope you get something out of these. I really do. I'm not interested, like I've said before, don't listen to a word I say. Search these matters out on your own. Do a king's honor. Don't listen to me. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. Okay? Get alone with the Lord. Be still. Get alone with the Lord. And all things will be added. She's been married 7 times before, and everyone was an enemy. Thank you. Thank you. Well, there you go. I wish I had that song. We'd do that one. All right. May the peace, joy, love, grace, understanding, strength, courage of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ be with you this day and every day. I love you, saints. Seek and follow peace. Bye-bye, everybody.
wonderful, magical, celestial light, fantastical, mystical, wonderful sight. Belgian Swiss physicist Auguste Picard, 1931, first to reach for the stars, was the first to explore the air view stratospherius, a scientist curious to see what was there. And aluminium black bog on the helium balloon, with photos and instruments, sailed towards the moon, rose in just half an hour, 52,000 feet, 10 miles up, 10 fair pressure, up a dead drop in heat and cold, but disproving gravity. Wonderful, mystical, beautiful sight, flat line separation of black from blue light, a world wrapped by deceivers, false make-believers, hiding in shadows, stealing our light. Mystical, fluorescent light, wonderful, magical, awesome, yes, stealing our light. Wonderful, let there be light, supernatural, eternal, luminous, up we go. Higher than rainbows, higher than mountains, above cumulonimbus is higher than air. High level horizon, 360 around us, but right round behind us, any height that you dare. The sun and the moon both revolve around us to forever show time pass intelligently there. You'll never beat us, you'll never defeat us, no more you deceive us, we see through you like air. Kipper and Picard were the first ever known to reach up there. Divine luminescent light, mystical, wonderful, celestial light. So what was their eternal testimony? What did they report back to humanity? Said it seemed like a flat disk far as eyes can see, with an upturned edge fading into infinity. A mystical, ethereal, celestial sight, a divine creation, a clockwork of light, designed hidden by deceivers and false make-believers, still cowering in shadows, still fearing our light. Here we go. Higher than Everest, higher than Athens, above zero cumulus, higher than air. A level horizon, 360 around us, no motion beneath us, no spinning road there. Stars on the firmament, turn us all around us to forever show time as geometrically there. You'll never beat us, you'll never defeat us, forever beneath us, we see through you like air. Mystic, so luminous light, fantastical, magical, bright, we see through you like air. Magical, angels of light, beautiful, wonderful, celestial light. The first to see truth when they reach for the stars, explorers and physicists, Kipper and Picard. Never you'll defeat us, forever beneath us, we see through you like air. I would miss heaven for the world. A mansion waits for me inside those gates of pearl. I'd gladly trade this world's glory for the one that's waiting for me. I would miss pilgrim passing through. And I'll keep traveling till the time that I make his home mine. The world can't keep the stream from coming true. I would miss heaven for the world. A mansion waits for me inside those gates of pearl. I gladly trade this world's glory for the one that's waiting for me. I would miss heaven for the world. Someday when I get to my home, I'll stand before the throne and join his children in a song. We'll sing about his amazing grace, how sweet to sing it to his face. Heaven is the place where I belong. I would miss heaven for the world. I would miss it for the world. A mansion waits for me just inside those gates of pearl. I gladly trade this world's glory for the one that's waiting for me. I would miss heaven for the world. I would miss heaven for the world. A mansion waits for me inside those gates of pearl. I'd gladly trade this world's glory for the one that's waiting for me. I'd gladly trade this world's glory for the one that's waiting for me. I'd gladly trade this world's glory for the one that's waiting for me. I would miss heaven. I would miss heaven. No, I would miss heaven for the world. For the I'm gonna tell you about the coming of the judgment. Fare thee well, fare thee well. I'm gonna tell you about the coming of the judgment. Fare thee well, fare thee well. There's a better day a-coming. Fare thee well, fare thee well. There's a better day a-coming. Fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning. Fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning. Fare thee well, fare thee well. When you see the lightning flashing, fare thee well, fare thee well. When you hear the thunder crashing, fare thee well, fare thee well. When you see the stars are falling, fare thee well, fare thee well. And when you hear the chariots calling, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. When you see the lightning flashing, when you hear the thunder crashing, when you see the stars are falling, when you hear the chariots calling. Good news, chariots are coming, good news, chariots are coming, so glad. Chariots are coming and I don't want to be left out. Well, there's a long white robe in the heavens, I know. Long white robe in the heavens, I know. Long white robe in the heavens, I know. I said good news, chariots are coming, good news, chariots are coming, so glad. Chariots are coming and I don't want to be left out. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well, fare thee well. Fare thee well, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well.
Thanks a lot for searching that out. I appreciate that. Fisherman in the Box. Fisherman in a Box.